as the most likely trade partner for Mitchell, who is the 13th overall pick in the class of 2017. He was the steal of that draft class. The Jazz have made the playoffs all of his 5 seasons, but shipping away Rudy Gobert and clearly appearing to be in rebuild mode. They want something big in return, but they are looking to ship Donovan Mitchell somewhere else. Is it New York? Is it Miami? Let's talk about it. We have our 2 hardball, round ball guys. Avery Johnson, Tim Doyle joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. Avery, how do you think that Rudy Gobert deal and all the draft picks they got is going to impact Mitchell's trade value on the open market?
Well, I think it's going to impact it significantly because if you look at what the Jazz received in return, that's a pretty good haul in terms of the draft pick, whether they're unprotected, protected, some nice young talent, specifically like a guy like Jared Vanderbilt, Walker Kessler, the big stretch 5 from Auburn was a nice catch and return. Obviously, Patrick Beverley may or may not be there long term. He'll probably want to move on to some sort of a team that has a chance to make the playoffs and potentially win the championship. But I think because of that, that was a significant win for Utah. They're trying to rinse and repeat the same thing and maybe get even more in return for Donovan Mitchell, and specifically, a lot of draft capital, and the one team that offers the most draft capital, the New York Knicks. And that's where I thought potentially Donovan Mitchell can land all along. So this was the plan for Danny Ainge when he took over the team, was to try to overhaul this roster, trade both of your 2 big fish, get some young players back in return and a lot of draft picks, and try to start rebuilding this franchise.
Yeah, because he did it with Boston, right, Coach? We saw what he did with the Celtics, getting all those draft picks, and he materialized those draft picks into Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. I'll say this right now. I know Coach can't. The T-Wolves got fleeced. They got fleeced. They gave up the farm for Rudy Gobert. By the way, you're pairing Rudy Gobert with Karl Anthony Towns. Are we in 1987 again? I don't know about it. Like, the game has changed so much. You remember the Pelicans tried to do this a few years ago? DeMarcus Cousins, Anthony Davis. How did that work out? I'll tell you right now. Don't even bother looking it up. It didn't work out. As for the Jazz, it's a fire sale. And what a great job by their front office to go, hey, Knicks, psst, hey, we're looking to get rid of Donovan Mitchell. Because a lot of people don't know this. He's from that New York metropolitan area, even though he didn't go to high school up there. If I'm the Knicks, I'm not doing this. I grew up in New York City, okay? The last time the New York Knicks had an all-star point guard was 30 years ago. Was 30 freaking years ago. And by the way, they brought in a ton of old point guards. Steve Francis, Stephon Marbury, Jason Kidd, Ray Felton. And when they got to New York, you know what they got caught up with, Hassel? Things that you get caught up with. The meatpacking district. Being all up in the videos. Out till 4 a.m. No last call. Don't do it, Knicks. Do not sign Donovan Mitchell.
So you're saying there's more to do in New York City maybe than Salt Lake City. Avery disagrees with you, Tim. Avery, why do you think that Mitchell would be a great fit at Madison Square Garden?
Well, I've heard of this possibility dating back to February. I was calling a game for CBS Sports Network, and, I was told that Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell were going to end up in New York. So this is right on cue, and I think those guys complement each other. They both can pass, dribble, and shoot, play on the ball, off the ball. Jalen Brunson had an outstanding playoff, specifically early on against Donovan Mitchell, when some of the Knicks executives attended those games, and Mark Cuban were thankful that at that time that they paid full price for those tickets. He wasn't as thankful when Jalen Brunson walked out the door and went to the Knicks. But I think they pair well together. And this would be a significant haul for the Knicks. They haven't had this type of backcourt, in as Tim alluded to, in 30 years. So I think they would pair well together. Fun to watch. Donovan Mitchell is an entertainer. He's a flashy guy. Jalen Brunson is a Northeast type of a guy, hard worker, put on your hard hat, won 2 championships with Villanova. So I think this would be a boost, especially if they don't have to trade, as many of their young players. They still need bench help. You need rotational help. So if you don't have to give up the farm in terms of players, but just trade your draft picks, I think this will be a significant win for the Knicks.
And they do have a bunch of draft picks, Tim. If you're the Knicks and you're hell-bent on getting Donovan Mitchell, what do you have to give and what should you give?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from the school that you want to draft well. You know what I mean? Look at the teams that win consistently. Devin Booker got drafted by who? Suns. DeAndre Ayton, Suns, right? Go to the top teams. How about the Warriors? Draymond Green, Steph, Clay, Suns. If you want to win an NBA championship, you win through the draft. And I've just seen the movie where the Knicks go out there and spend, and that movie don't end well. And it hasn't been ending well for 30 years. Oh, well, let's go back to when they had a good team. Oh, that's right. They drafted Patrick Ewing. Like, that's how you get better, is in the draft. So, like, you can't keep repeating the same thing over and over again. That's called insanity. So I've seen the Knicks do this over and over again, where they go out there and sign a high-profile free agent. And I think Donovan Mitchell's an excellent player. But you just wanted to go get Jalen Brunson. He's such a team guy. Let him kind of dictate. Because then if you bring in Mitchell, you're probably going to lose R.J. Barrett. And then you got to kind of figure out your identity. I'm just for, like, building the right way. There's so much pressure in New York because of what the Yankees do, and they just go out and buy the best team every single year or spend the most money, that the Nets feel that way, that the Knicks feel that way, that the Rangers feel. Everybody in New York feels like they have to compete with the Yankees spending all this money. You want to know when the Yankees won? They drafted well. Bernie Williams, Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera. Like, if you want to win a championship, draft smart.
Yeah, I think in this situation, though, the Knicks are paying for the sins of previous general managers and presidents. And I think they want to get well pretty quickly. And this has been a part of the plan all along. And I don't think they have 3 to 5 years to just wait on some of these draft picks like a Quentin Grimes or Obi Toppin. I think this is a situation where they want to get the ball out of Julius Randle's hands a whole lot more and not make him a point forward. So if you can make this move for Donovan Mitchell, he's going to have the ball. Brunson's going to have the ball. And also this could potentially draw other free agents who may want to even take a reduction in salary in the future because they know they have 2 studs at the guard position. But I agree with Tim. If they can retain R.J. Barrett, and now you're marching out Barrett, Mitchell, and Brunson at the 1, 2, and 3, all of those guys are interchangeable parts. That could be a grand slam for the Knicks.
Tim, I know you don't like Donovan Mitchell going to the Knicks because of what the Knicks would have to give up. What about the Miami Heat and what they could offer to bring in Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah, different circumstance. So Heat are trying to win a championship next season, right? Jimmy Butler's at the apex of his career. They have other pieces around that fit kind of that system as far as guys that can spread the floor. You know, is Duncan Robinson finally going to make a shot? If he's not, get him out of there. Get Max Strus out there. Hero is still there. Like, this team is built to win right now. The Knicks, you add in Donovan Mitchell. What does that really add? 5 more wins? So you sneak into the playoffs. Like, you got to go out there if you're the Knicks, hold on to your picks, build a little bit of chemistry, and hopefully you draft right. That's how you win a championship. They're probably going to sign Donovan Mitchell. That's probably what's going to happen because that's the New York thing to do. But if I was the Heat, we saw Kyle Lowry last year. I love Kyle Lowry. He has a lot of miles on his body. The only thing that was missing from him on the court was his cane or his life alert. I've fallen. I can't get up. The guy is old. He's had a lot of miles. He's played extremely hard throughout his career. I think they need another superstar that you could just throw the ball to besides Jimmy Butler, and they can get you that hoop, right? Bam Adebayo is not that guy. Donovan Mitchell could be that guy. If I'm the Heat, I see this as a guy that puts you over the hump. I see this as a better fit than New York.
Yeah, I like the fit better in New York, but I understand Tim's point. I think this move would put the Heat over the top in terms of being the favorites to win the Eastern Conference if they can pull this trade off for Donovan Mitchell. We saw in the playoffs, man, Kyle Lowry looked older than me, and I'm not going to share my age on national TV. But he looked pretty old, and I agree with Tim. He looked like he needed a cane. But again, that's what the problem with Donovan Mitchell would solve that problem. Hopefully, Lowry can get a little bit healthier and get back to his normal age. But Donovan Mitchell, when that ball would find him at the end of the shot clock, it wouldn't be as much pressure on Jimmy Butler. I think he wore down a little bit at the end because he had to carry so much of the offensive load. Tyler Hero was injured. He wasn't healthy. But again, I think with Duncan Robinson going back to Utah, along with a Tyler Hero and maybe a pick, that could potentially get it done for the Heat, and that would make them the favorites in the Eastern Conference.
All right, Avery, Tim, stick around. More NBA talk coming on the other side. Donovan Mitchell, still a member of the Utah Jazz, but Utah listening to trade offers in New York right now. Looks like the most likely destination, that would be the New York Knicks. A good start to Mitchell's career. They made the conference finals in his rookie season, but just one playoff series victory since then, and really a middling team that they've overachieved in the regular season at times, underachieved in the postseason. And they're rebuilding now with Rudy Gobert in Minnesota.
Well, let's welcome back in two of the best. We have Avery Johnson and Tim Doyle here going on with the latest in the NBA. Of course, things are changing fast and furious. Avery, let's start with you. We're talking about what's next for Kevin Durant. Of course, a lot of questions when it comes to the Suns right now. What do you think is next for him?
Well, I think next is a new team. It's just a matter of where, KD can land. The movie has ended. The curtains have closed. With Brooklyn, I cannot see under any circumstances that Kevin Durant returns back to the Brooklyn Nets. So it's just going to be a matter of how Brooklyn navigates through the trade scenarios and what they can get in return. A lot of those general managers are all out in Las Vegas, meeting behind closed doors, trying to figure it out. So, they'll talk to Phoenix, they'll talk to Miami. Obviously, you brought up Toronto. There may be a surprise team. Who knows if Golden State tries to get back involved, if that's something that Steph Curry and Draymond Green, the two loudest voices in that organization as it relates to KD's return to Golden State, what type of opinion they're going to have on it. So I just think it's going to take a little bit of time, but the Nets right now, they're not in a rush. They got to get something done, especially when they can get the most out of this trade. And right now, I think they're trying to hit a grand slam, and they're not trying to hit a single. And that's why this is taking a little bit longer. But Kevin Durant will be on a new team starting next season.
Yeah, and this is the second time, Coach, that we have seen the Brooklyn Nets sign all these free agents, right? Do you remember when they signed Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, and that was going to put over, and they lost picks for years. And then they were trending in the right direction. They went, let's blow that all up. Let's bring in all these free agents. That didn't work either. That's what I'm trying to say about the Knicks. I'm kind of like, you kind of going in a good direction. You picked up a good piece with Brunson. Like, let's not blow this whole thing up. You get draft picks and you draft smartly. The team that I, as a basketball fan, want to see Kevin Durant go to, Dallas Mavericks. How about pairing him alongside Luka Doncic? How about letting Kevin Durant pick the brain of Mark Cuban, who was the first owner to put PlayStations in players' lockers, put them up in five-star hotels, custom airplanes. When he was doing that 20 years ago, everybody thought he was insane. And now that's become the standard. Mark Cuban's always a step or two ahead of everybody else. And Kevin Durant, give him credit off the floor, he has his hands in a lot of different entities because he knows he can't play forever. The great Kobe Bryant, go back and look at some of the things he said post-retirement as far as getting involved in other businesses, other ventures, other entities. And now you pair Durant with, a guy, Luka Doncic, who he's like to be the MVP this year, in a team that I believe he puts them over the hump, playing alongside of Cuban. I don't know where Kevin Durant's going to end up, but I'd love to see him in Dallas.
Yeah, and I think that would be great for the Mavericks fans, especially yours truly, who's here in Dallas. I would love to walk a block and watch Kevin Durant and Luka Doncic put on the show. I just believe they're going to have to get another team or two involved, because I think the players that's on the Mavericks roster outside of Luka Doncic, especially since they lost Jalen Brunson, are not nearly attractive in a trade basically between the Nets and the Mavericks. But if you get a third and a fourth team involved, maybe they can get some more of the players back that they think are younger, like a Tyler Hero, that type of a MO of a player. But I don't see this team making a trade just basically, team to team. They got to get a third or fourth team involved.
Avery, out of curiosity, I mean, when Kevin Durant requested this trade, every single team was like, okay, what can we do? How do we get him here? I mean, and obviously the Mavericks probably did that, but is this something that they would even seriously consider?
I think they were saying, yes, I can't even get the words out of my mouth fast enough because I've worked for Cuban for 4 years as a coach, and I played for the Mavericks and I had a stint there playing, and I know basically how his brain works. So if they can get involved and they can make this happen, believe me, Mark Cuban has always been an outside the box thinker, a guy that loves to make things happen. As Tim alluded to, he's been ahead of the game in terms of amenities and the whole overall fan experience. So to be able to bring Kevin Durant to Dallas, man, that's something that he would do like yesterday if he could pull it off.
If he can pull it off is the question there. All right, let's go to Kevin Durant's current teammate, Kyrie Irving, who decided to opt in. Of course, we're not really sure if he will end up being there or another team. The number one team that's been thrown out is the Lakers. Tim, that offer right now, or that deal, I should say, according to a lot of experts, doesn't seem very likely to get Kyrie to LA. I'm not sure your thoughts on it, or what's the potential now that he could play in Brooklyn next season?
When I see what Kyrie Irving has been going through in Brooklyn, it reminds me a lot of the great Vince Vaughn from Wedding Crashers, as far as being forced into a dating situation where he doesn't know if he's interested. Now she's getting interested, but I'm not that interested. Now that I'm interested, maybe she's not interested. That's what I'm watching with him in Brooklyn. Like, he's not interested. Now they're interested. Now he's starting to get interested again, but they're interested in moving him somewhere else. Like, I'll tell you this right now, it's a mess. And if I'm running a team, I am not going into my ownership group saying, you know who we need? A guy that it didn't work out with LeBron in Cleveland. He went up to Boston. It didn't work out with Tatum and Brown. Then he went to Brooklyn. It didn't work out with Durant. I don't want him. I thought the whole Brooklyn thing was going to be a dumpster fire. And I'm not saying the guy's not an amazing one-on-one basketball player. He's an amazing scorer. He averages almost 30 points a game in the NBA. He treats NBA games like I treat like noon runs when a chiropractor's guarding me. Like, the guy's unbelievable, but he's just not a great teammate. And I think that, I think now this is the third time this has happened in another place. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. And I think Brooklyn is forced to deal with him right now. It's been an utter mess ever since he's come there. So I don't know what to tell you, Coach. I want nothing to do with him.
Yeah, this domino is going to fall once they figure out what's going to happen with Durant.
Avery, I'm not sure if you have any inside info on the guy we're going to talk about next, Collin Sexton, because he is your former player there from Alabama. His name has been tied heavily when it comes to the Jazz. What do you think we can expect when it comes to Collin Sexton?
Well, players like Sexton, they're all being affected by, this Kevin Durant situation. So, it's just kind of bad timing, because you got to figure teams are trying to, especially the ones that have any type of cap space. He's a restricted free agent. Obviously, Cleveland is just sitting back, waiting to see what happens. But you got to figure out what's going to happen with this Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant domino. See how that's going to shake out. Figure out what teams are going to lose what players. How's that going to affect their cap situation? And then I think Collin is kind of that next level behind all of those guys. Still a very exciting young man. Obviously went down with the knee injury, but this kid's been averaging 20 points a game. I've seen him firsthand. He's a two-way player, a very exciting player. Cleveland obviously is built up their backcourt. Darius Garland got the big contract extension. They drafted Abaji out of Kansas. But again, I do believe his days are numbered with Cleveland. because I don't necessarily feel that he fits there anymore. But I think once all of these dominoes fall, Collin will land somewhere on a restricted free agent contract, and I expect the Cavs not to match it.
Yeah, that's the thing. He just doesn't fit. And I want to hear your thoughts. It's because Garland's a small guard and he's a small guard. Is that why he doesn't fit, Avery?
Yeah, and I just think when you look at their drafts, you look at their backcourt now and the amount of capital that they've invested with Garland, I believe he'll move on and get in another situation where he could be a full-time guard and display all of his skill set because he's gotten better.
I mean, he averages 20 points a game, so someone's going to want him, okay? But I got a chance, Amanda. First hand, okay? I was on the floor calling an Alabama game, okay? Who is sitting next to me? Chris Hassel. And there it is. This was a game in Brooklyn. Man, it's crazy to think 5 years ago where Collin Sexton was playing with only 2 other teammates. That's right. There was an ejection. 2 guys got injured. It was all hell broke loose. And Avery Johnson coached the greatest 3-on-5 basketball game. It was a 14-point deficit that got trimmed to 3 points. And Avery, do you think this game helped out Collin's draft status?
Absolutely. I think at this point, Sexton was probably projected around 15, but we knew he was going to make it into the top 10. He put on an absolute show. Warrior mentality, tough, made some incredible shots, 1 against 3. And it's amazing how Minnesota just froze on offense and they couldn't score against my creative 3-man defense.
I was about to say, Avery, I know that you were giving Collin a lot of credit there, but we talked to him actually about that game and not a crazy long time ago. And he said it was all you and you were coming up with these plays and they're like, we're not sure, coach, if this is going to work, but okay, we're going to trust you on it. So sure enough, you were the one behind all that.
Yeah, that was one of my greatest coaching accomplishments. Boy, if we could have won that game, that could have gone down as the greatest win in college basketball history. So,
all right, let's talk about one more player here. We could talk about that game
all day. It was a fun game.
Avery, let's talk about John Collins here. Look, the Hawks have come out and said we still value him. There were reports around the draft that said he was absolutely done with Atlanta. If they can salvage this situation, is it worth it? Do you see him there next season, or is he headed elsewhere?
Oh, I definitely see John Collins with Atlanta next season. I think when you put him on the front line, now they got Dejounte Murray, who's going to pair well, especially to help Trae Young from a defensive standpoint. Again, this is a guy that you've invested quite a bit in. You can't lose talented young forwards like this. Sometimes, egos get in the way. But maybe that's on Trae Young to try to make this work. I think Dejounte Murray, coming from the Spurs organization, coached by Coach Popovich, he understands what great chemistry is all about. Maybe he could be the middleman here. But I see John Collins, unless he's included in some 4 or 5 team trade with Kevin Durant, I see him returning to Atlanta.
I think the biggest thing with John Collins is he's only played over 70 games once in his career. The last year, 54 games. The year before, 63. The year before that, 41. So, I had a coach that said you can't make the club in the tub, like meaning in the, the tub, the cold tub, like you're always hurt. So he's got to stay on the floor. If when he's on the floor, he can give you almost 20 and 10. He did that 3 seasons ago. So his biggest thing is health. He's not even 25 years old yet. It seems like he'd fit in a pick and pop situation with all these playmakers and Murray and Trae Young. So biggest thing is he's got to work on his body and stay on the floor.
Gentlemen, we appreciate it. Avery, I'm glad we got to go back to that game. What is the money for at this particular moment in time, Tim Doyle?
There's a lot of people out there about to get the bag, Amanda. A lot of people about to get the bag.
Not us. Not us, apparently. Avery may already have it. You and I are just out of luck.
In 48 hours, DeAndre Ayton is going to officially get his bag.
Like about $133 million worth. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see what transpires over the next 48 hours or so. Odds to win the NBA Finals, they could be dramatically different in about 48 hours from now. But right now, the Celtics sitting at the top, followed by the Warriors and then the Suns. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.